Welcome to the Alchemy of Ascension Season 5, activating starseeds, walk-ins, and the new human of the golden age. I'm your host, Sheila Seppi, and today it's my pleasure to introduce you to Sheila Seppi. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
I am really looking forward to diving into our conversation today. And I know the viewers are going to love you and love this one. But first, I'd love it if we could all do an alignment process together, just a short tuning in to get us all present and on the same page. So let's just begin by closing your eyes and tuning into the breath. Just deepening the breath into the belly, relaxing and becoming more focused with each breath. And then as you're breathing, bring your intention and your attention into your heart center, making contact with the light within your heart, feeling that heart light expand out around your body. And now tune in to the heart light of central sun far above your head, breathing that light down into your body and joining with the light in your heart. And now making contact with the light in the heart of the center of the earth, the heart light of Mother Gaia. And breathing that light up into your body, into your heart center. And now bringing the light from above, the light from below, and the light within to an expansion out around your body and out around the space that you're in, connecting all of us in our heart light and finding the balance, alignment, focus, and presence to be completely clear and open to receiving whatever is for your highest good in this conversation today. And with that, come on back, hopefully feeling more present and ready for whatever we're going to learn today. And now I'm going to share a little bit about Sheila and who she is in the world. Sheila Seppi is a soul exchange walk-in. She entered the body of a 38-year-old mother with 3 children and was immediately healed from documented illnesses. She took on a new personality with spiritual gifts and memories she didn't even believe in. Her life was transformed and she has never been the same. Sheila is the author of Walk-ins, Cosmology of the Soul, which I happen to have right here and I'm currently reading. It's an amazing book with beautiful artwork too. A speaker, multidimensional life coach, healer, regression therapist, shamanic practitioner, and a spiritual teacher. She is the founder of the W.I.S.H, W-I.S.H Alliance, which stands for Walk-ins, Indigos, Starseeds, and Hybrids, Cosmic Conversations, Conscious Awakening Series, and the founder of SpiritWay Ministries, which serves as a catalyst for focused body, mind, spirit healing and transformation on an individual and group basis, and to help prepare humanity for ascension and the new earth. So you are just the epitome of what this whole show is about, Sheila. And I was so excited to find your book and your work. And so for starters, since this is the first time you've been on the Alchemy of Ascension, I'd love to kind of have you share from your origin story. I know we got a little piece of it in that opener, but how did this all happen from your perspective? I know.
Wow. Well, there's a couple different perspectives. There was the perspective of the physical body that had been setting up for the experience to occur. And then there was what was happening while I was in my original state prior to incarnate. So back in the body's 30s, 20s, and 30s, it was a very sick person with documented, bone cancer, brain tumors, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue, MS. I had erythema nodosum. I walked with a cane, and basically my life was in a tailspin downward. And so I had 3 children at the time. I couldn't play with them. I was laying on the couch for the majority of the time. And, I'd go to work and come home and just collapse. And that was about all that I could do. And so I went to bed in this very ill state, very angry, very frustrated, very exhausted, physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. And what seems to be like 7 o'clock the next morning, it felt as if someone reached down, grabbed me by the hair of the head, pulled me bolt upright in bed, and it was as if lightning was running through my body. And I don't know how long I was in this space, because all of a sudden, when I felt that energetic surge moving through me, I was in a white space. And for the first time in a long time, I was out of pain. I had no rush to get back. I wasn't concerned about anything. My mind was very clear, and that was not something I had been experiencing as of late. But in this space, I was very, very comfortable. But eventually, my peripheral vision started coming in, and then my frontal vision. And as I sat there in my bed, looking around, not having any idea what had happened, everything was different, but everything was the same. And all of a sudden, all of these universal truths, information about past lives, which I did not believe in the night before, healing modalities, which I had never studied, universal truths, which I had no interest in, was just flooding my body. And I didn't understand what was happening. First off, I felt awake and alive because most of the time I was in this dull, beat down state, because it was just wearing me down, the constant pain. But all of a sudden, I have all of this newfound energy. And so when I hop up out of the bed and I walk across my floor and I catch my image in the mirror, it's as if I'm looking out of someone else's eyes. I have absolutely no idea who I really am. I'm looking at my hair, my teeth, everything. And it was as if I was seeing myself for the first time. Now, I didn't realize at the time, but my body was 100% healed of all the illnesses, and they never came back. And when I went to the doctors, they had no explanation for what happened to me. Now, the lightning that I felt coming into my body was actually when I was arriving into the body. That was my first visceral sensation in form. And when I sat bolt right up in bed, that was because the soul that was departing, the natal soul, did not even have the strength on its own. And so it was basically propelled out by the energy. And so that's what thrust me upward. And fortunately, even though this body was extremely, extremely sick, it had been of Arcturian nature. And when I came in directly from my collective, which I'll talk about in a second. But the neurological foundation had been laid within this body template that allowed for another Arcturian form to kind of slide in without frying the neurology. And instead, it had the opposite effect, and it healed the entire body. Now, prior to incarnating, I was in my, what I call the collective. I had all of my multidimensional aspects. And that goes back to, I started out with the Elohim, helped create angels, and then ended up being an angel myself. So I became the created. Then I was Arcturian, I've been Palladian, Lyran, Orion, you name it, but we all have. But all of those aspects had been called back. And I had merged myself with others of likeness. And so we were enshrouded within the Christ consciousness and doing work in the Andromeda system. When we felt, heard, experienced this vibration from Gaia, and it was a cry from Gaia asking for assistance. Now, in Earth time, that would have been like right around the 80s. And so we left and came to Earth, and our collective, which was already a merging of souls, merged with other souls, and we enshrouded the Earth, and we were working on the crystalline forms within the etheric nature. We were working on the templates within the earth, and we were working on the grids within the earth, under the earth, of course, all in the etheric form. And we were basically feeding or projecting that Christ consciousness energy into these crystalline grids. And once the energy would hit, it just spreads out. Now, because we also have multi dimensions that we're operating in simultaneously, every time thought occurs that affects the collective consciousness, that affects a grid system, adjustments have to be made. And so that's why there was so much energy there, and it still is there. But when I came in, it was decided by the collective that this would be the aspect to incarnate, because I could bring in more of that Arcturian blueprint so that I could merge with the physical body without causing any type of damage. And some of the first things that had to occur, of course, was the healing of the biology and the neurology. And that took about a year for all of the brain synapses to kind of switch over. Because what happens is when someone is a walk-in, they're coming into a body that has its cellular blueprint. It already has its genetic makeup. It has its ancestral DNA codes already imprinted. However, each soul also carries its own light codes. And so when it merges with a body, it begins to instantaneously imprint. And so the entire imprinting process took probably close to 10 years to switch over all of the cellular structure, all of the old belief systems. And that's how long it took before I could begin then to implement my mission of being a way shower and helping to work with humanity and raising consciousness for the ascension.
Wow. Okay. There's a lot there that I absolutely want to dig into more and unpack. But before we do that, let's back up. And for people that are new to the idea of walk-ins or even the term walk-ins, can you break that down? And you wrote about it beautifully in your book. Can you break that down and help just kind of unpack the whole concept of what does it mean to be a walk-in? What does that term mean?
Sure. Now, the term walk-in is different for a lot of different people. And I found that out through conducting the interviews for the book that I wrote, Walk-ins, Cosmology of the Soul. The type of walk-in that I am is what's called a soul exchange walk-in. And that's where one walk-in arrives and the other one leaves. And there is no residue left of the original soul. And so it's a brand new soul in a form that has already been inhabited. There's other types of walk-ins as well. And those types, the first type that I identified is what's called a soul infusion. Now, unlike the soul exchange where one leaves and the other comes in, a portion of that natal soul is retained and a new soul aspect comes in. This new soul aspect will be from the same oversoul. And it can be part of its higher self, or it can actually be a brand new aspect that it's bringing in from the oversoul. And the two of them merge. And the longer that the original soul stays, the more learning occurs with this new aspect. And so once that learning period is over, then the other aspect can either meld with the other and become one soul, or that little driplet of the soul that remained can actually then leave and then be reunited with the other aspects that walked out. The next kind is what's called a soul overlay. And a soul overlay is when you have the soul, and then you have another aspect of the soul that comes in and it enshrouds it just like a neoprene suit. And it serves as a battery charger to help enliven that soul. Or maybe it serves as a placeholder so that soul can go off and maybe do some healing of its own, and then it will come back. And if it's strong enough to come back and hold that space, it will stay and the overlay will leave. If not, the two of them most likely will merge and become one soul. The next kind is what's called a soul braid. And a soul braid is when you have two independent souls that are occupying the same space, but they literally entwine with each other. And then we have what's called a jumper. And a jumper is only in the body for a very short period of time. And they may have come in maybe to serve as a muse, maybe to help someone through a very difficult process. And so a soul jumper will enter in. The original soul to the body, the natal soul, will be 100% intact and have awareness that something different is going on. And so the jumper will be there maybe hours, could be there a week, could be there a month, but it's a very short period of time, and then it leaves. And then we have the multidimensional soul layering, where there is more aspects of the soul that have come in at birth and activate during different periods of time. Now, typically these activations occur as a result of illness or severe emotional or mental trauma. Sometimes they'll occur during a surgery, and in my case, in illness. And so there's a lot of different ways that different soul pieces can come into the body. Now, when I'm saying soul pieces, I want everyone to realize that I believe what's happening right now on the planet is more and more people, because of all of the spiritual work that they're doing, they're calling in more of their higher self aspects, or more of their star self is awakening, more of, they're remembering, hey, I remember a lifetime on Pleiades. I also remember a lifetime on Lyra. I remember a lifetime being an angelic being, okay? Because more and more star seeds are flooding this planet, because this planet is undergoing this metamorphic change unlike anything that's been experienced in this solar system. The inhabitants, as well as the planet herself, are having a spiritual awakening together. And now that that spiritual awakening has occurred, it is a conscious expansion that's occurring. And when we reach a critical mass, there will be a massive expansion. Now, I can remember on Arcturus, there were pods of individuals that would ascend together. And sometimes like even cities worth of people would ascend together, but never in the solar system has a planet ascended with its inhabitants.
Wow, that's
Pretty
such
cool.
an interesting perspective on what's going on. Tell me, I'd love to hear a little bit more about what does that look like when a pod or a city of inhabitants on Arcturus, when they would ascend together? Can you break that down? Like, what happens to them? And one more thing, is that what happened with the Mayans?
It is what happened with the Mayans.
Yeah.
But and that's exactly what happens. It is an expansion of consciousness whereby they move into a different place of being. Now, we call them dimensions, we call it densities, etc. But it is just a different vibrational frequency, because everything is all happening at one time. We're in all the dimensions at all of the time. It's just that we have to be able within ourselves to recognize that we are multidimensional beings, and that we can easily be in the fifth dimension and higher, or we can be in the third dimension, and people kind of just feel like they're in an area that they're stuck. I have a lot of clients that come in and they're like, I've got this one area in my life and I just feel stuck. And when we break it down, the reality is, it's not that they're stuck, it's that they're holding on to old 3D belief systems, and they want and desire to live a higher vibrational life, but they still haven't learned to let go. And so one of the things I like to do is to work with people and help them to realize that, yes, we are multidimensional beings having a human experience, and we're all multidimensional beings, whether we recognize it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love how you describe the layering of the dimensions. So let's just say for theoretically, somebody is in the fifth dimension, experiencing life and reality, and has ascended to that level. And then someone that they're living with is still kind of stuck in the third dimension. Are they still able to see each other and interface and interact with each other? Or do they just suddenly not be able to see each other anymore?
When you're in the fifth dimension, it is basically an expansion of your consciousness. And so we have multiple people on the planet that are in fifth, sixth, seventh dimension. Their bodies have not ascended yet. Their consciousness has ascended. And that's the biggie that's occurring right now. Mm-hmm. It's difficult for third dimension and five dimensional beings to co-inhabit, because what happens is the third dimensional being recognizes the light or the spark in the fifth dimension. It's always trying to energetically pull that to them, because on a subconscious level, they are wanting to ascend as well. But they just have not yet reconciled within that ego mind of what it means to actually release and let go of some of the 3D thoughts, actions, deeds, even material items. It used to be that a lot of people would come to me, and some would even have an issue that they were hoarding so many things. And of course, helping them to identify those areas in their life that they feel need to be filled up, or that need to be cleaned out themselves, really help them to move through that process. And I find that people who are moving out of 3D all of a sudden begin to give away a lot of the possessions. They begin to clear up the space, because every item in your home, every item that you surround yourself with holds energy. Mm-hmm. And so when you live in a house that's totally cluttered, you're competing with all of these other energies. So when you release that, then you can have much more of an expansion, because you don't want to expand way out here if you're being met by clutter. You want to, you're keeping your energy close. And so that's one of the first things that I notice about people, that they start to give things away. But it's not impossible for 3D and 5D to coexist. It just has to be that there is an agreement and an understanding that they're just going to have to agree to disagree, because they are going to look at life very, very different.
Yeah, that was a great explanation. Thank you for that. And I love the clutter clearing analogy, because yes, absolutely. How can you think when your space is packed with stuff, right? Same with internally. How can we think when our minds are so cluttered with thoughts?
Right.
And so one more question along those lines, certainly many of us are able to see, feel, experience energetic beings. I've even, I've seen many different types of beings, but one time my son and I saw a man who was a light body, he didn't have a physical body, walking across the bedroom at night. And so are these, these experiences, I would say that's somebody or a light being or a being in a different density or a different dimension. And yet there's an interface. And so maybe a good way to ask that is, how is it that sometimes we can see and feel people that are in like probably quite different experiences of reality than we are? And why can certain people see that and others don't experience that?
First, to your question, it depends on the light being. First off, it could be someone from off planet that was deliberately making a visitation. So that could be one thing. The second thing could be because right now on our planet, the veils between the dimensions are really thin. And a lot of people who are spiritually awakened are able to see into these other dimensions. And so it could also be that it was where you had energetic lines that were crossing that created a very thinning of the veil. And so some people's gifts come in and are awakened. Some aren't. Some people, have green eyes. Some people have blue eyes. It's just genetics. And when I say just genetics, it also has to do with the life path that you are here on as well. Some people, when we all make our birth plan before we arrive onto this planet. And so some people may have need of gifts while others may not. And so sometimes people come in, they go to all the workshops, they do all of the work, they never have any experiences, and they start to get so frustrated because it's like, I'm doing the work, I just don't understand. But I always tell them, I said, what if part of your life path is to experience all of these things, yet not be able to personally experience them? I tell people there's a difference from walking the path and knowing the path. Mm-hmm. And sometimes, even though you're walking the path, the only thing you're going to experience is the knowledge. And sometimes walking the path, you are going to embody, you are going to be that knowledge. And that's the way I always look at gifts. It just depends on what your path in this life is.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing and explaining about that. Now to go back into the walk-in conversation, what has to be done, or is there something special that has to happen to the energy body, or even the energy, the physicality of a soul that's going to experience a walk-in to prepare for that? And how is that done?
Okay, so actually what occurs is the natal soul is intact, and the natal soul itself has its own energy bodies. It has its own chakras. It has its own blueprint, which is in the template, the body template. And so it has its own set of instructions on how it is to operate in this lifetime. So when you remove that soul, and another soul is in the body, those instructions are no longer valid. Now, I will say that walk-ins, and the walk-ins that I know, and I know especially in my case, I had to agree to clear up all of the karmic contracts that the older soul had. It had cried out to be released. It was kind of an early window. We do give ourselves many opportunities throughout life as an exit strategy. And this soul chose an in-between time, but it needed to leave because it was beaten down, it was exhausted, it was lost, it was staying because of the children, but the life force was just draining out, and it would have eventually just died. And so when I came in, I took on that role to be caretaker for the children. Now, when I came in, I had an immediate love for the 3 children. My parents, I knew my sister, I knew different people, but I didn't have these connections that I had as the old person. All of a sudden, this person began to have a whole change of lifestyle. Listening to new music, eating new foods, everything about me had changed. Well, those changes were being supported by the fact that when this new soul came in, the energy bodies were being changed out. And so when I first originally came in, there was only a small portion that could incarnate, even a smaller portion than normal could incarnate because the body was sick. So it was like little drips of the new soul was coming in over an extreme period of time. During times of downloads, it was like the faucet was open and all of this information would come rushing through. And part of the reason it was drip, drip, drip is everything was being changed out because I came in so quickly. Now, in a normal case, what would happen is this would be part of a birth plan experience. And so prior to the walk-in occurring, over a period of months, it would take, it's like almost like an etheric operation where parts are being removed and new parts are being put in place. And sometimes if the energetic bodies are really well established and intact, then just new light codes can be fed into all of the energy bodies to help it to sustain this new energy. And the chakra information has to be cleared out. It's almost like with a computer, the hard drive has to get wiped, and then a whole new set of instructions have to happen. And so with me, the chakras and everything was being reworked while these little drops were occurring. But it took my entire integration process. I was in the body probably within 3 years, but to clear everything and to move it out. And when I say 3 years, that some people may say that's a long time. Some people may say it's a short time, but everybody is different. The physical body was so sick that it took so much repair. The illness was gone. And so when this new energy came in, it was kind of like the electricity went out and the cells were healed, but then everything had to be reprogrammed.
Mm-hmm. So interesting. So I want to weave in a little story about my, I've had so many walk-in experiences with, I feel like I'm a walk-in magnet because walk-ins are always around me. Even sometimes new people that I meet, I don't know at first, and then they'll start talking about their walk-in experience. But, and this has been going on like much of my life, but I had an experience in my early 20s where I was found and trained by a shaman for 3 years. And I didn't fully understand at the time that shaman was a walk-in, and I believe a walk-in aspect of my twin flame that came into a body that was that had basically a drug overdose and left. And there was a 3-year period. And at the end of that period of time, this being that I had been like so in love with, so connected to, so deeply just entwined with, it was a different person. We were arguing then. I'm like, I don't even know this person. And in retrospect, my guidance showed me what happened, that my twin came in, walked in, trained me in galactic shamanism, and then left. Essentially. And I think there was some soul braiding in there. Or I'm not even sure, I guess, from the categories that you shared, which kind that is, but I'd love to hear from your perspective. Is that something that happens very often? And it was very magical, incredibly magical for me, but heartbreaking when it was seemingly over, you know?
And that could have been an extended jumper situation. It could also have been a twin braid of sorts. And so the original inhabitant of the shaman stayed, yet this other aspect came in and they were entwined for a short period of time. And then after the experience had occurred, then the other aspect left. Because sometimes as souls, there is a long line and a waiting list to get into a human body, because so many people, they want to be here to experience what's happening on the planet right now, because it is so exciting. And so you have volunteers that want to come and help out in situations. And it very well could be that because on the other side, and there's no linear time, and we have much more knowledge of what's going to be occurring, that this other aspect identified that you were going to come to be trained and made an agreement with the shaman soul so that it could enter in and then be there to support you. Because, we have all this wonderful galactic support around us all of the time. And we also have the non-interference, so we can't just be saved. That's not what this is about. It's not about being saved. And so the best way to assist humanity is to have troops on the ground. And so it sounded like you had a very determined aspect that wanted to assist you. So that's beautiful.
Oh yeah, it was an incredible experience. Also, that same aspect, which I call my twin aspect, has jumped into many bodies over time. And I affectionately would call him the body snatcher, because sometimes it would be minutes, sometimes it would be days, weeks, months, and then in that case, 3 years. And I also understand that he attempted for many years to get a body of his own, but his energy turned out to be such that he just was not able to be carried to term by he couldn't find anyone that could carry him. So yeah, interesting stuff.
It is. And when you think about walk-ins, to me, obviously it's very normal. It just totally makes sense. And people are like, well, because I did, after we had a walk-in conference, there were so many people that contacted me. There was no way that I could effectively serve all of these people. So the Wish Alliance came into be. And then on Thursdays and Mondays, we have different meetings, etc. And so it was during these meetings that I began to hear all of these other stories from other walk-ins, and began to understand that there's so much happening on the planet right now that walk-ins are just flooding the planet. And then people are like, well, but what about starseeds? Well, walk-ins are starseeds. We have to come from somewhere. Now, I came from a different dimension. I was in a collective of beings. And so I did not come directly from a planet, but we all have come from somewhere. Even people who are not awakened, 9 times out of 10 are star beings, because they just haven't awoken yet to the essence of who they truly are. Star beings are also, or walk-ins are also angelic beings. And so walk-ins really kind of cover, we have to come from somewhere. That's what I'm always telling people. We come from somewhere. So whether we're a dimensional being, an angelic soul directly from a planet, the walk-ins that I know, and I'm sure that you know as well, are here to be of service to Gaia and humanity.
Yes, yes. And hence the ascension conversation,
Yes.
the raising the frequency and waking up and all of that, the new human of the golden age. It's really a mission for the walk-ins, the starseeds, and yes, so many beings that are here to assist and serve. Yes. And then one more question, just something I'm curious about your perspective on is integrating the monad. Now, does that fit in as a type of walk-in?
Well, that's where a lot of the energy is coming in from, is from the monad. And the way that I was explained, when I first started questioning my collective, and I used to call them my guides, and finally they're like, just call us your collective. That's what we are. I'm like, okay. So when I started asking my collectives, what happened to this other soul? Where did it go? Am I a body snatcher? Did I kick it out? Did I take advantage? Because I was still questioning myself. And so everything was explained to me in that we have many names for the same thing. Some people talk about oversouls. Some people talk about multi-layered oversouls. They talk about, well, like with me, the term Shantias Khan was given to me. And I was shown, because many times I'll go back and visit within the collective, and it's kind of it's a very etheric, very crystalline, like there's 100,000s of little sparkly lights everywhere. There's like little tinkling sounds. But when we look at that, what was that? You know, what was that collective? Where did that collective come from? And so in my case, it was a merging. A lot of other people will have memories of kind of a fog-like area, and they were in what was called the Shantias Khan. And that Shantias Khan is a miniature of the massive oversoul. And that a lot of times people will still call an oversoul. They'll call it the monad. They'll call it a lot of different things. But I was told that within that, that's where we have our personal energy. That's our own personal cloud storage, if you will. And when we incarnate, then we just bring a little aspect of that down with us. You can look at the Shantias Khan as actually being a cell in the oversoul. And so again, yes, it depends on what people's definitions are and how they use them. But to me, it's all energy. And it's all energy forms. And there are so many different layers of, even like with the Shantias Khan that I was talking about. There's dimensions within there. There are other densities within there. And so everything is possible. So yes to your yes is the answer to your question, and probably yes and more.
Endlessly more, right?
Endlessly, for sure.
Some of these questions and concepts we could talk for days on, and yes, and I know in the conferences that you've done, that's been the case.
Yes.
Yes. So I'd love to have you share a little bit more about the W.I.S.H Alliance. You talked just a moment about it, but for people listening who are like, oh, I want to know more about that. How do I get to be part of that?
Beautiful. Thank you. So the W.I.S.H Alliance has a website, and it's wishalliance.org. And we came together. We have individuals from across all walks of life who are walk-ins, indigos, starseeds, hybrids, angelic beings, dimensional beings, you name it. And we've all come together to support our membership. Now, when we say membership, it's not like, oh, you have to pay to join. No, you don't do that. You just give us your email, sign up, and we'll start sending you all the notices. So our membership are our community members. And so our desire is to provide spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical support, promotions, and education to anyone who is interested in the types of subjects that we have. And so part of my walk-in process was growing into, obviously who I am today, as it is with every person. We're constantly growing and changing and becoming who we are. But I was guided by my collective every step of the way, and they just kept saying, go bigger, go bigger. I thought I was the one that had to provide all the services, that had to provide all the events, that had to provide all of these things. And I was working myself into the grave. And so it finally, they're like, you don't have to do it. Bring people together. And so that's what the W.I.S.H Alliance is about, is gathering all these phenomenal resources. You can go on there and find, these are vetted professionals who provide services on everything from like DNA reconstructing of the soul, to someone who wants a tarot reading, to someone who might be interested in learning more about the hybridization program or the secret space program. And so we have individuals from all walks. And as I said, these are highly vetted. We have a group which is like our luminaries, which are the ones that ended up being the founders, myself, Neil Gar, Barbara Lamb. And then we have a whole group of what we call our emissaries. And these are individuals who are out and they talk about W.I.S.H, they support us, they help us to present our programming, etc. And then we have ambassadors. And this may be something that people are interested in, because if you have services that you are offering to the public, let us know. And what we do is list you. There's like a nominal $11 a year fee for that. And you will be listed and promoted. And a lot of people enjoy that because it brings recognition to them. And one lady that was a hypnotherapist is like, oh my God, I'm on the same page with Barbara Lamb. Who knew? So they got really excited. But the reality of it is, we all work together as one collective union to support everyone who is interested in learning and growing and expanding and preparing for the ascension.
Mm-hmm. Wonderful. Wow. I love it. Yeah. I'm definitely going to go check that out immediately.
Oh, please do. We'd love to list all of your
Yes.
items, your programming, and anyone out there. Just sign up and we'll add you to our list. And if you're interested in being an ambassador, we can send you additional information.
Great. Okay, well, I want to make sure we have time to talk about what you're offering today. And you have a free gift for everyone, which is some writing from your book. Do you want to share about what that is?
Sure. So today we just really hit the highlights of my walk-in experience. And the free gift I have for today is for individuals who will go to the website and fill out the registration form. Then you will be sent those chapters from the book that shares my experience. And it will also talk about the different types of walk-ins.
Great. Yes. And it's so interesting. And there's, like we just kind of brushed the surface. There's always so much more. And then that's a great way to get into your world. I know a lot of people are going to be like, I need to know what you're up to in addition to all this. So thank you for that. And then you're also offering, this is your paid offer, an hour crystalline blueprint reading. That's $125 for a whole hour, which is an amazing price. And can you talk about what is a crystalline blueprint reading?
Okay, well, we obviously are looking at our physical bodies, and extending about 1 inch from our physical body is our etheric blueprint, our template. And there are crystalline grids within there. There's information of programming for not just our physical body, but also some of our life path work as well. And so what I do is I can connect one-on-one with people through Zoom, and we go through a connection process, and then I just begin to read the information that is around the body and the information that comes to me. And sometimes people have very detailed questions, and they want to know about their life's mission, and where they came from, and they want to know information about their twin souls and those types of things. And so it's kind of like doing a reading with the information that I see that's around the body. And a lot of times we can go in and actually activate the light codes if that person's soul and the person itself is ready to embrace the information that's found within those light codes. And if I find they kind of twinkle and blink a little bit. So as I'm working, and I'll tell people, we've got something that's coming up. Are you ready? Are you ready for this? And I'll tell them in what area of their life that I find it. And so usually we just talk for a few minutes, and I just go about reading the body. And sometimes we can find blockages in there as well. And so those blockages will be removed.
That's so fun and exciting. Yes. Okay, well, I will have the link to that, to sign up for that, in the show notes. So anybody who, if that's speaking to your heart, then you can get that. And is there anything else you'd like to share or leave the viewers and listeners with before we close?
Absolutely. We're all here having our human experience. And so whether we're a walk-in, or whether we're awakened to the fact that we're a starseed, or whether we're not awakened to any of these facts at all, we all are here at this point in time with a very important mission. And sometimes that mission is to hold light for other people, just to smile when people are down. People don't have to, everyone doesn't have to write a book or be on a circuit, or, maybe what they're doing is they're the person that's in the grocery store that smiles at you every time the little lady, brings her mask down and smiles, or pops it back up. We don't know what our missions are, but they're all equally important. So everyone matters. And I know that conferences like this, and individuals that are watching this, as we do, we are creating a collective synergy that is raising the vibrational frequency of the planet, that's helping to put in new light codes into the collective consciousness. And so I really expect to see wonderful things happening here in just the next few months as a result of this conference and others, just putting in those light codes. So thank you for the work you're doing, and thank you so much for inviting me. And people, please get a hold of me if you have any questions. Oh, and if you think you're a walk-in, I also have a questionnaire on my website, on the SheilaSeppi.com website. And it's under, I believe it's under the book. And so I have the intro to the book, I have the foreword to the book, and I have the questions that I also have listed in the book to help people identify if they think they may be a walk-in.
Oh, fun. I love it. Kind of like a quiz.
It is. Yeah, it's a little quiz.
I love that.
Yeah, the quiz was based on all of the experiences that I had, things that had shifted and moved for me in my life.
Amazing. Okay, wonderful. Another free gift.
Yes.
Yeah, so I will end there. Sheila, thank you so much. This was so fun and expansive, and I feel you just hold so much knowledge. Thank you for sharing that with all of us today. I appreciate you so much. And for everyone watching and listening, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you all so much. Have a wonderful day or evening, and namaste.